Sorry. We're going to call to order the Planning Commission regular meeting Wednesday, September 7th, 2022 at 7:00 p.m. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Drutt,
Here.
Commissioner Kinsley,
Here.
Commissioner Freiser,
Here.
Commissioner Wallace is absent.
For approval of the agenda.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Second. Got a first and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Looking for approval of the minutes from March 3rd, 2022.
I'll move approval of the minutes from the March 3rd.
First, second. And second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passed. And no old business on the docket, so we'll move right into new business. First order of new business tonight is on land use file number 2022-02 mixed use development on North Shore Phase 1. So public hearing will now be open at 7:01 p.m. And the public hearing is in purpose of considering land use file number 2022-02 mixed use development on North Shore Phase 1. Procedure you're going to follow tonight is as follows. We'll start with staff report, questions from the Planning Commission, applicant presentation, public testimony, general public comments, applicant rebuttal. Does any commission member wish to disqualify him or herself for any personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight? Does any commission member wish to report any significant ex parte or pre-hearing contacts? Hearing none, does any member of the audience wish to challenge the right of any commissioner to hear this matter? No, sir. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to question the jurisdiction of this body to act on behalf of the city council in this matter? No, sir. Oregon land use laws require that all issues be raised. The issues are to be further appealed. Failure to raise the issues at this hearing may invalidate their further appeal. Will staff please present the report? Thank you, Commissioner John.
I prepared these slides for tonight. Okay, so my name is Henry Hurley. I'm a planner at Lane Council of Governments. Lowell has asked me to review this application and present the staff report. So tonight we're considering site plan review for mixed use development. The owner is an applicant is Jerry Valencia. Next slide, please. So first, I'll give a brief overview of the proposal. So the applicant is requesting site plan review for development of a new 3-story building that will contain 3,600 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor and residential units on the 2nd and 3rd floors. There will be a total of 10 residential units ranging from 1 to 3 bedrooms. All off-street parking will be placed behind the building and access the site from North Pioneer Street. The proposal will include off-street parking spaces, but staff are unsure of the precise total of parking spaces proposed. I'll address that later. Next slide. This is the subject property. It is zone C1 general commercial and is within the confines of the downtown regulating plan. Development must be consistent with the Lowell downtown master plan. The site does not contain any wetland features or steep slopes. The site backs up to existing residential properties to the rear. The site is across the street from Rolling Rock Park and across the street from the renovated City Hall. North Pioneer Street is a city street and North Shore Drive is a Lane County road. Next slide, please. These are the agency comments that were submitted from the city engineer and Lane County Transportation. I will read both of them. The city engineer has reviewed the plans. The city engineer noted the new location of a new storm drain line has been added to the plan, but the plan does not contain any grading information. The city engineer said there still may be unresolved issues around fire hydrant locations and the adequacy of water line connection. Lane County Transportation has also reviewed the plans. Lane County has commented that it's not entirely clear as to what's being proposed within the North Shore right of way. Lane County notes that there's currently a setback sidewalk along the frontage and notable elevation drop from the curb line to the property line, with an open drainage ditch between the sidewalk and the property. Filling the sidewalks in this area may require piping and filling to address grade issues and maintain drainage. Because of these issues, Lane County will require the applicant to address drainage and demonstrate compliance with other applicable county standards during the facility permit process. Staff has made this a recommended condition of approval. Next slide. So as you've seen in the staff report, there are issues that staff want to make planning commission aware of. Some issues will require planning commission's discretion. I'm going to run through the issues and do my best to explain them. Staff are looking for planning commission's decision on these issues tonight. Staff cannot make these calls, so planning commission as the approval body must give staff direction. The first issue is more of a theme in general that applies to this application and all land use matters in the state of Oregon. It deals with land use law and is the issue of improper delegation of authority. The issue is this: in order for the planning commission to find any particular approval criterion met, there has to be substantial evidence in the record that the approval standard is met, or sufficient evidence to find that it can feasibly be met. The latter is required in order for the planning commission to delegate their approval as the approval body to another approval authority, oftentimes the city administrator or city engineer. If there is not sufficient evidence to find an approval criterion is met or can feasibly be met, then conditioning an approval criteria to another authority is improper delegation of authority. This issue has been ruled on several times in the courts and at the Land Use Board of Appeals. Further, such a review of a technical plan, of which is required to satisfy an approval criteria, must have the ability to be reviewed by and commented on by the general public. Staff mentioned this because this may come into play tonight when planning commission is reviewing the application. In particular, the grading plan, landscaping plan, and exterior lighting. Next slide, please. So this is the first issue, and this is the landscape slash site plan. So there appears to be two site plans in the record submitted by the applicant. Both site plans are labeled AS003, but contain different dates. One is dated July 27, 2022, and the other is November 23rd, 2021. Staff are unsure what is the effective and operating site plan. The landscape plan submitted by the applicant is sheet L2. The plan shows 3 generic plans: version A, formal arrangement; version B, informal arrangement; and version C, optional masonry wall. Staff are unsure which is proposed for the site and where will be located on the site. The landscape plan does not match the site plan. The site plan on the left shows L2 planter 02 and L2 planter 01. This does not match with sheet L2. The site plan on the right from November does not contain any labeled landscaping features. Staff are also unsure what landscaping is proposed along the frontage of North Shore Drive. The site plan from July does not show any street trees along North Shore, while the site plan from November does. Staff are also unsure if the 5% minimum for the parking area landscaping requirement is met. The applicant has not shown how this requirement is met. Parking lots that contain 20 or more spaces must contain at least 5% landscaping. The 5% minimum shall be within or abutting the parking lot area and shall be in addition to the required landscape yard setbacks. Planning Commission should consider whether or not the landscaping seen adjacent to North Pioneer is abutting the parking lot in order to be included in that 5% minimum. Next slide, please. We're going to stick with the landscape and site plan issue. So the code says that parking lots shall have curved landscape islands and trees at the ends of parking roads to facilitate movement of traffic and break large areas of parking surface. Staff see one proposed curved landscape island in between stalls 9 and 11, denoted with the red arrow. There appears to be a proposed tree and landscaping at the far end of stall number 21 in the above site plan, noted with the green arrow. But this does not show up on the other site plan submitted. So staff are unsure if this requirement is met and precisely what is being proposed. If Planning Commission thinks this proposal meets the code, then it can find this criterion met. Staff think it would be beneficial if the applicant or the representative further describe what's occurring here with respect to curved island landscaping and trees at the ends of parking roads to facilitate movement of traffic and break up large areas of parking surface. Also, staff are also unsure of the total number of off-street parking spaces proposed. The site plan shows differing information with respect to off-street parking. The applicant should clarify to the planning commission on a revised site plan and orally precisely how many off-street parking spaces are proposed. Next slide, please. This is sheet L2. This is the landscape plan that was submitted. This shows 3 generic landscape arrangements. Staff are unable to tell which arrangement is proposed for which areas of the site. Also, there is no additional information about the optional masonry wall scheme as version C. Due to the unclear nature of the landscape plan, staff and planning commission is warranted in continuing the hearing for the applicant to submit a full and clear landscape plan. Next slide, please. This is the issue of grading and drainage. So staff think this is the grading and drainage plan submitted by the applicant. What's seen here are elevations of catch basins, a sidewalk pedestrian connection point from North Shore to the ground floor of the mixed-use development, and a storm drain line seen in red. The plan does not include any technical grading or drainage information. There is an existing bioswale between the curb and the property line and a change in elevation. The applicant will have to deal with these drainage issues of the bioswale. Lane County will require those plans to be submitted as part of a facility permit, which has been made a condition of approval. So please. This is the drainage memo that was submitted. After publishing the staff report on August 31st, the applicant submitted additional information into the record with respect to drainage. The memo contains the information staff were expecting from the applicant. The memo outlines the amount of impervious surfaces that the development will generate, how much runoff can be expected, and how that runoff will be sent into the city's stormwater system. Given this technical memo, staff were able to find that the applicant feasibly meet stormwater drainage criteria, and that planning commission, if they agree, can delegate the final stormwater drainage plan to the engineer for review and approval. The next issue, exterior lighting. So the applicant has stated that lighting will be limited to a pole near the east entrance and west end of the development. The applicant is proposing 20-foot poles with LED downlighting fixtures. The applicant has indicated that the site plan shows the location of the light poles, but staff do not see any light poles on any of the site plans. So staff are unable to verify the presence or location of light poles or any exterior lighting. As such, staff are unable to find criterion 4 of site plan review met. Criterion 4 says that proposed signs or lighting will not by size, location, color, interfere with traffic, limit visibility, or impact on adjacent properties. Planning commission must consider if the applicant's exterior lighting plan meets the criteria of section 9.529 exterior lighting. What staff are really taking into consideration here are the existing residential properties to the rear of the site. The applicant should mitigate or minimize as best as possible nuisances such as light pollution from falling onto adjacent residential properties. Given what's in the record, staff are unable to surmise that. Slide, please. North Pioneer improvements. The frontage of the property on North Pioneer does not contain any urban street improvements. The site is taking direct access via North Pioneer Street. Section 9.422E5 says that development within the downtown area may be conditioned upon agreement to comply with reasonable exterior building modifications and street and sidewalk standards as part of a future downtown development plan. Now, the part about building modifications is not relevant. Staff believe the applicant's mixed-use development proposal is excellent and fits the vision and spirit of the downtown master plan. The part that is relevant is that development in the downtown may be conditioned upon future development of a downtown master plan, specifically street and sidewalk improvements. Also, section 9.517 streets says that urban street improvements, including curb, gutters, and storm drainage, are required for all development in Lowell. This section of North Pioneer presently contains no urban street improvements. So coincided with section 9.517, section 9.422, the site plan review criteria that says development in downtown must be consistent with the downtown master plan. Staff thinks it's reasonable for planning commission to require the applicant to construct the frontage of North Pioneer that abuts the property to the standards as seen in the adopted master plan. Further, addressing pedestrian safety, staff also believe the improvements get at pedestrian safety by constructing a sidewalk that allows pedestrians to interact with mixed-use development and provides a planter strip that creates a buffer between pedestrians and traffic. Overall, by improving the frontage of North Pioneer, consistent with the approved master plan for that area, this will facilitate pedestrian movement from the street towards mixed-use development and will allow for proper access, functionality, and pedestrian and vehicular safety to the site. Staff recommends Planning Commission implement these improvements as seen in the image here on the screen and as a condition of approval. Next slide, please. Off-street parking. Staff are still uncertain as to the exact number of off-street parking spaces proposed. It might be 21 or 22. For the residential portion of the development, the applicant is proposing 1.5 spaces per unit for a total of 15 spaces. The remaining spaces will be utilized for the ground floor commercial uses. The code does not adequately address parking minimums for mixed-use style development. We do not know the types of commercial uses that will locate in mixed-use development. It could be retail, service, and or office. For those reasons, staff are requesting the Planning Commission to review and approve the applicant's off-street parking plan. Staff note that in addition to the off-street parking, there will be on-street parking nearby with the implementation of the North Pioneer improvements. Staff have no issues with the number of off-street parking spaces proposed, whether it be 21 or 22, especially when considering on-street parking will be provided on North Pioneer. Next slide, please. So this is a summary of all the issues I went through, and you can have this slide up for when you discuss and deliberate. So just in review, some of the issues that we need your direction on tonight is the off-street parking plan. We need to clarify what the total spaces are 21 or 22. We're also looking for your approval of the plan in general. The drainage plan. Now, consider the drainage memo that was submitted. Staff do think that it's feasible that the applicant can submit or meet that criteria with that drainage memo being included in the record. We're also looking for approval of the grading plan. There was no technical information submitted outside of what's on the basic site plan. The city engineer found that what was submitted is acceptable for completeness, but requested detail as to how the site will be graded. The grading plan is not adequate for construction or issuance of building permits. The landscape plan, Planning Commission needs to consider whether or not what's been submitted is adequate to find all requirements of section 9.528 met, or that they can feasibly be met. Also, the 5% minimum landscaping within or abutting the parking area, and also the curb island, landscape islands and trees at ends of parking areas. And then the exterior lighting and signage plan is what's been submitted by the applicant sufficient to find the standards of section 9.52 met, or that they can feasibly be met. And this also gets that criterion 4 for site plan review. So some Planning Commission options for tonight. Planning Commission may continue the hearing to a date certain. This provides the applicant time to provide the requested information before Planning Commission makes a decision. A timeline extension may be warranted if the Planning Commission chooses that route. Planning Commission can also make a decision with the current record. Planning Commission may approve the application with conditions or deny based on the current record. Planning Commission also has the authority to add, delete, or modify any conditions. Staff do not have a recommendation for a decision on this application. Staff think there are unresolved issues that need to be addressed by the applicant. If Planning Commission finds the plans submitted are not adequate to find that the criteria are met or that they can feasibly be met, then Planning Commission can continue the hearing. Conversely, if Planning Commission finds the applicant has met or can feasibly meet all criteria, then perhaps it approves the application tonight with staff's recommended conditions of approval. Now, if Planning Commission approves tonight, staff would recommend that the Planning Commission issue an oral decision and direct staff to come back with written findings in support of their decision. This would mean Planning Commission would reconvene at their next meeting to review and adopt the findings supporting their decision. Staff will incorporate the discussion that you had tonight into the findings. And if the Planning Commission approves tonight, we have prepared recommended conditions of approval for your consideration. That's all I have.
Thank you, Henry. Do any of the commissioners have any questions?
So this was very confusing because of the different dates of the drawings that are on here. And I know that this came up through Planning Commission and then it was removed. Jerry had decided to not do the project. So now we're picking it back up. So I don't see a bioswale on here. And is that to be intended in the drainage ditch that exists?
Is that correct to me?
Oh, I'm just, yeah. I
So
guess.
real quickly, for right now, we're just gonna direct questions for Henry.
Okay.
And then we're gonna go over to Jerry, let him
All right.
have his thing, then we can ask him questions
Okay, so
also.
was there a bioswale indicated on the drawings?
No, that's, well, I think there was, one of them that shows here.
I don't want to get hung up on just the bioswale. There's all
No.
kinds of things that are missing.
Give me the page number, and I'll pull it up on.
Yes, the site plans were confusing for staff, given that they were two different dates.
Right.
So it's on page. Pull up the site plan dated November 23rd, 2021. It's on one of the slides. It's in the lower right-hand corner. It says sidewalk. Yes, that one. It says sidewalk to enter under building, or sidewalk to enter the building under culvert.
This is
to
AS
existing-
003.
Yes.
Okay.
Files. I think your page numbers got cut off in your packet, but it looks like it might be page 58 or 59.
Okay, so mine doesn't say.
There's no, well, files was shown, it's just that green.
Yeah, in my green bar, it
Yeah.
doesn't have that. And this is the same amount I have, but maybe it's the generation.
Yeah,
So-
so that's what made it confusing for me during the review, and the record is that there's two site plans with different dates showing different information. And then your comment about the withdrawal of the application, that's true, so the applicant did submit back in the fall. We had a hearing scheduled, the applicant withdrew the application. so
That's
that
right, it
is-
was scheduled. We never had it. All right. And then yes, the parking is confusing. It's not numbered well or clear, and it skips from 9 to 11. And I'm not sure what the white bar is in stall number 8. And then 15 is missing. But I don't know. I'm sure it can be clarified. Anyway.
I'm sure. It's not entirely.
So, Henry, with the recommendations of staff have clarification on this. I don't know, Lon, do you want to just go down the list?
Well,
There's so much here.
Yeah, we'll do that in deliberations.
There's just so much here to clean up.
I understand, but some of it may be answered
Okay.
once we
Yeah.
go over to.
The applicant always has.
I don't want to get
opportunity.
bogged down in the minutia. Let's just hit the ground running
One question real quick, Henry, since there's multiple phases shown in this, does it make a difference when the road development is completed, or the lighting part of it is completed, or even the final landscape? Is it that we're looking at it has to be in the drawings, but there's no set completion date because of multiple phases, or is there?
So all the landscaping for phase 1 and lighting for phase 1 should be in place for the occupants occupy that building. That's the way the conditions are written. Prior to issuance of building permits, they just submit the plans showing that, but they're not gonna get CFO until the site's built out.
And same thing on the road development?
The road development has to happen immediately with construction, because those impacts, the site is taking access from North Pioneer, those impacts are gonna happen immediately. That's why that pedestrian connection, the pedestrian interaction with North Pioneer is so important. Because right now, there's nothing there, there's no urban street whatsoever.
Any other questions for Henry? Okay, if not, we do have applicant Jerry Valencia with us. Do you wish to add anything to the staff report, Jerry? And if you wouldn't mind, just real quickly, give your name and address for the record.
Sure, once it 11 more.
Thank you.
As discussed with the city and everybody, Tony Favreau and the engineers are buried, so they just said at the end of the day, they will get that information grading reports and some finality on, the culvert that was underneath the stairs. Or underneath the concrete to the entrance of the, buildings, so that technically we have an alpha bioswale there as it is, that's actually on, county property right away. They will address that at that time. The electrical is a design build system. And until I can get the design built and finish up the lighting, again, we're waiting for approval so that we can start paying for stuff. It's impossible to, if this comes out of my pocket or to get in through the permit process, you know, the biggest thing for us we're looking at is a understanding that we will check off our landscape, check on our grading, we'll have our, you know, landscape plan, grading plan, and storm drag stuff put in as we finalize the permitted drawings. I can't do anything until I have permitted drawings. At this point in time, we're trying to get is Lane County, or not Lane County, is the city of Lowell interested in getting a 201 mixed use building and getting that started. As for the street frontage and redoing the entire North Shore, as I discussed, and as the representative Cedric Hayden and the rest of our commissioners or representatives said they will help the city of Lowell with some grants and stuff like that on any of your guys's downtown plan. But since I wasn't included in the downtown plan and didn't get to, you guys didn't send me a letter and say, oh, by the way, how does this affect you? At the end of the day, this is your guys's downtown plan for parallel parking and bike lanes and stuff like that. And as your estimate in 2019 came out at approximately $2.3 million for that area to do street improvements. And since I can't get Banner Bank or anybody else to jump in and pay for this, as Cedric Hayden said, come to him, come to Floyd Brzezinski. They have grant money that they can help us with that. I'm doing it from property line back. I have 4 easements into my piece of property, and I don't need to use egress or anything into North Shore at this point in time. So all I'm saying is please understand that I'm doing the best I can. And this is an expensive project for not only myself, but since I'm the one that's cleaned up the downtown of this community, that at some point in time, we'd like you guys to at least, you know, give me a hand, give you guys a hand to develop this community.
So in short, you're saying you're not going to improve the North Pioneer.
North Pioneer, I'll do the sidewalk and the entrance and approaches and stuff like that. It's North Shore.
Is there access point onto North Shore from this project? North Shore is not being touched,
Yeah.
my understanding, am I correct? No,
That
it's,
was his recommendation, said I need to redo all the North. That's.
no, that's not what Henry said.
The only thing on North Shore is a pedestrian connection sidewalk.
Right.
North
This
Shore
little green
to
thing,
down to the,
this little green thing going over the culvert.
and there's also landscaping there. I'm not sure what landscaping is.
That's the only thing on North Shore.
That will go to this position side.
Yes, and you have a giant ditch there that's gonna need a culvert and,
Yes,
yes, so,
and that's what Tony Favreau, the engineer, was working on. But he doesn't have time to work on it, and then our surveyor, which is Dave, to come out and get all the elevations and to do the same drawings that we did for the Lake Beautiful, Lake Town Estates. Those guys are just very.
so is this being required to be done before the whole development starts then, this little possibly 6 foot, 8 foot piece of concrete?
That will occur when the whole second.
I think more the concern was that this be taken care of, because this is your access point to these people, unless they're driving all the way through the development.
And when it all ends, they will be driving on straight forward. All the other pages.
Am I correct on that?
Yes,
I
I'm
mean,
still,
that is what I thought is the important part is that North Pioneer access be performed before the development starts.
correct.
Okay,
And I'll offer rebuttal at the end.
all right, I'm sorry. I just want to be sure that there's a lot going on here.
There is. Trust me.
Okay,
It's still Jerry's.
Sorry.
So, again, as I said, the exterior lighting of the building will be done by the electricians. It'll be a supplemental, first middle, design build process. I think that as Tony Favreau said, the main thing was get the ball rolling, and then once we get that ball rolling, we can start putting some time away and getting elevations and culverts and everything else that we've already done. Like you states, it's just time and cost. And same thing.
Does anybody have any questions for Jerry?
I know that Tony is buried, everybody's buried. What is his time frame of getting, or the architect's time frame of getting these missing pieces of information or clarification? Or an updated drawing that shows, including the grading, the drainage.
I believe at the same time. Permits. They're working on getting, we usually have CD drawings, okay, here's what we look at, etc. Next phase is basically getting permanent drawings into you has to go through you guys again. Or through the building permit process. I can't leave anything off. So I've got to show the
I was just asking for timing.
soon. I asked a long time ago. I can't, as soon as I have a permitted drawing, because I'll have every nickel and dime for every drawing that I can possibly get, because I can't get anything started unless I'm permitted.
Any further questions for Jerry?
Okay. So a few things I'd like to clarify. So yes, the street frontage improvements is on North Pioneer just for the section renting the property. North Shore, I'm looking for the landscaping that's proposed. I can't quite make clear what landscaping is there. Street trees are involved on North Shore. Any removal of existing trees, Lake County, will that be included in Lake County permit? And then also the comments about the plans, happening at the approval or the permitting stage. That is precisely the issue that I first discussed in proper delegation authority. So that planning commission should not, planning commission is the review and approval body. Like I said, they look at the plan, they see that the criteria are met, or that they've submitted sufficient evidence to show that it can be met, and then they can delegate final approval. So I would disagree with the applicant's assertion that those plans get reviewed in the permitting stage. They do, but you at least have to show that the standards can be met up front, and that's why we had the land use hearing process, is for the public to review and comment on those plans.
And then the question is, has that been shown? And a couple trees on North Shore, or what looks like North Shore, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so.
And yeah,
So so it's a good point you bring up. You're getting that is what they submitted sufficient to show that they can meet the landscaping standards, and maybe not. So that's a good point. That's all I have to say.
Can I ask?
So you'll get final rebuttal. I'll get to you. I'm done.
Okay,
So
thanks real quick.
from the fence line back to them, I will carry all of the landscaping for that. As Lowell goes through and their downtown plan doesn't get started, I think until 1930 or 2030 or something like that, if I remember right. That's part of Lowell's. So the existing trees, I'm not touching them.
Those don't belong to the Lowell, they belong to the county.
Okay,
You
so
can't
I'm not,
touch them.
I'm not touching any of that.
Yeah.
So anything that's on my property back, I'll have landscaping plants and stuff like that. Anything from the counties or whoever.
You are responsible for the landscape in front of there. You know that, right?
That's what we're saying, is be part of the downtown master plan when you guys implement your next.
Oh, so you want to be removed from that.
Yes.
I do better with plain speak.
I,
Just tell me what you want. I don't make me go around the mulberry bush because I'm gonna drag you with me. Okay, so you want to be absolved of your responsibility from the county. Well, this body can't do that. That's up to the county, right?
So anything occurring on North Shore or adjacent
Yeah.
to North Shore, yes, we'll go through Lynn County
Perfect.
as part of that facility permit process.
Mhm.
However, a section that I did not bring up in here, but it is in your staff report is, and it's very important, it's approval standard for site plan review is consistency with the downtown master plan. Now, as you can see on page 11, that's when it starts.
Mhm.
So what that's saying is, for any development that's included within the downtown regulating plan, you need to go through you look through the downtown plan and you review that for the policies that are put into the proposal. So that's what I did. So you can see policy 1.4 on-street parking. Well, on-street parking will be implemented on North Pioneer. We're not addressing North Shore at this time in any aspect other than landscaping and then pedestrian sidewalk connection. Policy 1.5 is off-street parking. Off-street parking in the downtown shall be placed behind the development. That's precisely what's being proposed. That's excellent. Policy 1.6 planting strips. Planting strips, that is to be placed between the curb and the sidewalk. That is part of the North Pioneer improvement, so that's great. 1.7 street trees. Those street trees are placed in the planting curb, approximately 25 feet apart. The mixed-use building, that the proposal is consistent with that. The downtown wants to encourage mixed-use buildings, and that's exactly what's being proposed. The multi-story buildings, that's what's proposed. Covered entries are proposed. Wide sidewalks, the Pioneer sidewalk, I think it's going to be at least 6 feet, so it's consistent with that one. So the only one that I would push back on is the landscaping and what the trees that are occurring on North Shore, which will be under the direction of Lynn County, but the city does have that policy 1.7 for street trees. So if the trees are not being removed, that's great. Maybe the trees is not an issue.
You're great. Appreciate you.
Okay, are we set on both sides?
Yeah.
Okay, Jerry. Do you have anything to add to your testimony?
Testimony usually when you're getting arrested.
On your report?
On my report, we will have everything from the back, from our property line back. Will be responsible. And the property entrance and everything else for our stuff. I believe that it's preferred for your downtown planning. There's some time and there's a lot of things that people can do down the road, and I'll help do what I can with our county commissioners and recommend and see what we can do. But at this point in time, all I've asked and said over and over again, I can get part of this done on our property. I can get what I can get done on our property. But to carry the whole property now, Lowell, I've done a lot for this community, and I'm asking for some, this is spaced out for what's going on more. It's spaced out is that we've got a lot of stuff that needs to get done with the duration of time. And I can do it.
Thank you. Now is the time for public testimony. Are there any members of the audience who wish to speak in favor of this proposal?
No.
Is there any members of the audience who wish to speak against the proposal? No. Okay, then do you have any further comments, Mr. Jerry? There's no further testimony. The public hearing is now closed at 7:40. And I'll be looking to the commission for discussion. Suzanne, you brought up discussions, I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I, just in reviewing this, there's enough holes in here that make me feel like it is not complete enough for us to even give conditional. A lot of this stuff, correct me if I'm wrong, because I work in I work in the commercial realm. This stuff would have been cleaned up and done before it got to the planning commission for approval. And I know that we've been going back and forth because I've seen some emails in 2001 to now, and even there was an email from September 1. Was that I saw on the screen?
Oh, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, the comments have been submitted are in the packets. the
Right.
Emails.
Yeah, I tried printing them out, they didn't print out. It's a great thing. Any development in our town is a great thing. And the applicant is not alone. There's plenty of people who want to develop here in Lowell. Clearly, there's plenty of people. The conversation last night at the council meeting was surrounded around development and the impact that it has on our city. And things that we're going to have to expand on in the relatively near future because of those impacts. For me, I think that this needs to be cleaned up before you receive approval.
So then, basically we're looking at decisions. One, you guys have a memo that I gave put out for you guys.
Yeah.
They give kind of our options. What I'm hearing, what I'm personally hearing is that we want to see this go through. But the voting body doesn't feel like we have enough to say that they would approve it. But I'm also not hearing that with wanting to deny it. So I think our other option would then be number 3, that more time is needed and to keep the hearing open and see if we can't get those last few items just pushed through as quick as we can. The lighting, what was the other one that we're looking at? Just landscaping really, because
And grading.
the other one, we got the memo that says that it met the drainage.
Oh, I didn't see the memo. Was that the one that was flashed up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. I saw it flashed up there, but I didn't get a copy of it, or maybe I didn't see a copy of it.
Yeah, and the memo came out and it said with the memo, the staff feels that it addresses the staff's concerns about the adequacy of the technical plan and the issue of the delegation authority still comes back to us on drainage. But it does show impervious surfaces and the amount of runoff. And staff's opinion on that one is that the drainage memo does address the feasibility for that.
And so it says approximately 10,000 square feet of impervious area. Do we require a drawing, a parking lot drawing, or
Generally, that.
measured
like-
parking
Maybe
area?
like a grading plan.
Grading plan, okay. So,
But that went back to the grading plan until Tony and Dave had time to do one. That's again, the grading plan was just because they didn't have time to get it to us.
okay,
So one more thing in that one is that the staff feels that the information provided is adequate and that at that time, if we were to approve it, it still has to go to, that we can delegate to the city engineer that it's to his final specs.
That was for drainage.
For the drainage. Correct.
correct. Okay,
So, but gonna ask the question, the most important part of this, the lighting and stuff like that does not really, I understand light pollution and everything else. The electricians will get us the lighting plan for that, the first middle. And get that into you guys, and same thing with the plants. But overall, that's the only thing, the biggest thing was, do we have enough drainage? With the critical. Where's our storm drain and stormwater was part of the critical part of this whole exercise. And that I think everything else can be met by additional drawings and stuff like that down the road. Additional.
Well,
We should limit the discussion to planning commission.
okay,
And if you want a review of the issues that I identified that are unresolved, they're on that.
Yeah, it would be great. I guess what I'm looking at though is what we're being told is that we just need a little bit more time to get that final approval.
yes, with regard to drainage, that's the beginning.
But no, it's all free.
Sure, yes, but I mean, like, and for an example. That's the foundation. You start with putting drainage, underground utilities, and they're not complete. So
Right.
I would like to see that complete.
That's what I'm getting at, is that if we say that we want to leave this open.
Okay.
That we set another date, that we say, hey, we just need to have these drawings, these last 3 items addressed. Understand that time is a crunch. But then that,
Central, you have enough fall, you have enough drainage. And that
it's,
So in my recommendation on the supplemental staff report, the drainage. I think what the applicant submitted is sufficient evidence to show that they can feasibly meet the drainage criteria.
Right.
They've given us the amount of impervious surface, how much runoff they can expect, and how that runoff is gonna get into the city system. So I think that the planning commission, it's your decision. I think the planning commission can find that the drainage standards can be easily met, and therefore you can delegate that. But that's the only thing that I think the planning commission can find.
Right, and then there's so much included in that drainage. No. Well, okay, so you,
well, it states that it states that they find that there's enough information.
so
That we
so
could
the
delegate
drainage,
and
yes.
say yes,
Okay.
and it can go to the city engineer. But the other ones that, if I'm hearing right, is the street lighting.
Which is.
The big items are listed there.
Right.
The grading, the landscape, and the lighting.
So landscape and lighting, feasible, are you saying that there's no way feasibility that we can't meet that threshold? That's an important part. It is.
I understand what you're saying. I do understand.
And that's
What I'm trying to say is that in order for us to say it's feasible, we have to be able to see that it meets that feasibility. That's the whole point of it, is that it's not apparent in the drawings. And if it was apparent in the drawings, then we wouldn't be having this issue with it. I think one of the things that got brought up is, where is the lamp post gonna go? It's just not on the drawings. And I think if we gave a little bit of extra time, throwing, okay, this is where the lamp post is gonna be, this is the style, then that meets our criteria. It doesn't have to necessarily be, what's the decoration of it or anything else. It's just, here's where it's at, this is the style it is. And then the same thing with the landscaping is, we're gonna be putting bushes, this location, and these areas. If I'm assuming that if we gave it a solid amount of time, just to say, hey, can you just throw these real quickly on drawing, meet the criteria, then it should give us what we need to.
Technically, it's on the drawing, just that it doesn't identify what the paying plants. So then I would say the light post would probably 99% would be A, on the building, and B, in the plant area.
And that's just all we're looking for. So I guess my way of looking at it is, I want this to go through. If we just extend this out, I think it's very feasible to get those couple of things for us to move forward.
So if I'm hearing the planning commission right, these are your options, and if I'm hearing you correctly and I understand you right, it sounds like you want to continue the hearing to allow the applicant to submit those items before we make a decision.
Correct.
Now, the planning commission should be clear as to what items they want the applicant to submit and how much time they need to get that information to you. Because the city also needs to consider the 120-day rule. The 120th day of this application is November 26th. So from the city's perspective, the planning commission, and if it goes to appeal to the city council, the city has to take final action on this by November 26th. So the city can ask an extension of the applicant does not have to provide it. It's always in the best interest that the parties work together to get these things resolved, but the applicant is not required to give the city an extension. So the city is working within a 120-day time. So you have to take that into consideration.
Can we give the applicant the option for us to do a meeting within 30 days of them completing those drawings?
Yeah, so typically, this happens in Lowell is not the exception. This happens in every city. So, say planning commission, I think, the can't quite determine if the landscape criteria that I need a revised landscape plan or make a decision. Okay, well, applicants, say 30 days, applicant submits it, planning commission comes back in a month from now. They have that plan, it'll be included in another staff report, it'll be reviewed, it'll be presented to you again. And then you can review it, and then you make a decision after you have those items. So say the applicant needs 60 days, that's fine too. You just
What if
schedule.
he gets it done in 7?
In 7, we'll probably still work with the regular planning commission schedule unless the planning commission wants to set a special meeting date. And that is where the applicant kind of needs to let us know, let the planning commission know.
So would it be easier to have Rex go through and just send you an email and then put this as part of the, here's what the plants are, here's where the light posts are, and then be done with it and not have to have another meeting, because I don't think this is part of the critical path. And these issues that we are really kicking down the road, kicking the can down the road.
Well, I disagree, because the planning commission is the review body for the city of Lowell for site plan reviews, which being requested of you.
That's
So,
what I'm saying.
if-
People get their lighting location.
Yes.
And what the plans are, but that is not something that is so. I'm not trying to build a building in the middle of the lake and go, well, how are you gonna get?
Jerry, this is part of our process.
Okay.
This is part of the due process that the city has decided they want to use in order for new development to happen. So that when somebody, after your building is up and done and the landscaping is done, the next person who comes along comes through the same process. And we make sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, so that we don't say, go Jerry, go. And then, oh, wait, who was supposed to keep track of the lighting that was supposed to happen? And you have 2 exterior lights and nothing else. Or the sidewalk doesn't get done, or the bios rail doesn't get done, or something doesn't get finished and it slips through the process. We're trying to maintain the sanctity of the process.
So real quick, we just need to finish our discussion. I guess. Once we, what we're asking is, do we give them the time to get those other things taken care of? first?
Yes,
And then do we come back in a certain amount of time and get that moving forward? I believe that when it's presented to us, it still has to be an open meeting so that the public can make comment on that once they see it. That's why it has to be that way. That doesn't necessarily mean that the applicant or representative has to be present for that if it's a time frame issue. If everything meets and we feel it's feasible, we can just approve it at that point and move forward from that. We can set a date based on when it comes in. We can say, we can actually ask for them to notify us once those are in, and we can say, can we all come to a date in a certain time frame, whatever has to be met for the meeting code.
I think that would continue upon hearing.
Yeah, I think I
Schedule to
can
review.
coordinate that.
But then,
Yeah.
from then,
So,
I would make time.
so if that is, then we need to have a motion, but it's gonna have to include the items that we are waiting
Yes,
for.
so the planning commission should be as clear as it possibly can to the applicant, what is being asked of them and by when, a timeline.
So with that, the
And-
120 days you said is November 6th, 26th.
Yeah, the
That would have
120
to
days,
be-
November 26th, so. So that's what you're working with, but that includes any appeals that may happen, so. The city has to make a final decision on the applicant's application by that date.
And then the items again that we're looking for. Well, I don't mind reading that back up again, Jeremy. Is what we see on the top. with
So, yeah,
house and drainage.
so I would consider the drainage, I think the planning commission, if they agree, can consider that one checked. The
But
grading
it
is,
was, I would want to see that on the drawing. I don't want to skip from the drawings. It's on the.
sure, so maybe they can be included in the
Maybe
grading.
clarification on the drawing.
So,
So if we're asking him, it's gonna be the main thing that we're talking about is the exterior lighting. Landscape plan. And then grading,
Mhm.
and then the on-street parking.
We're not doing this.
You are doing off street.
I am not.
yeah, off street behind,
Oh.
Spaces.
but
On the
behind,
street.
what I would ask the applicant is for them to, it's clear, like. Please clarify and clearly show how many spaces are being proposed, because it's not clear.
Yeah,
So on the top one, we're looking for. Which drawing are we going by for parking spaces?
And I mean, that can just be on a site, just. So all this can be. In addition to this, a clean, clear, updated site plan is what's needed. Because as you saw, there are two site plans at different dates showing different information. Okay, so parking can clearly be shown on a site. And the applicant's representative is an architect, I'm sure they can do that.
So number 3 would be the one that we're looking at. To continue the hearing to the applicant to submit, and then. What it is that we're looking for out of these 3. Or sorry, what we're looking at. Up on the screen.
I think the planning commission is looking for an exterior lighting plan. A clear and updated landscaping plan, a grading plan, and a updated site plan showing off-street parking.
So, good question, grading plan, which won't be done until. I mean,
Quite frankly, that's not the city's problem.
okay, let's see.
that's why I asked you how long when we first started this. How long will it take for them to get these things?
How long do you think it, try to get it by you, try to get it into.
So let's make a motion.
Okay.
Set a date, give Jerry the ability to. Talk with his people and get start moving forward.
So are we, so 120 days from today is November 26th?
No, 120, so the
That can't be right.
date of completeness, so that's why I put it right on the front, so these are very important.
Yes,
So the date of completeness was July 29th, 120 days from that is November 26th.
So in order for appeals, go to city council. And anybody bringing up any other issues, we should be looking at. Meeting no later than next month. Middle of the month. In order to move forward with the current time.
I would say beginning in November at the latest.
we gotta give them time to get drawings done.
So first. Wednesday. November. Does that give us a time frame?
That would be more than adequate from the city perspective.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. So if the planning commission wants to give the applicant essentially 60 days to submit these items to the planning commission, they will come back, review these items, and make a decision. I think that's reasonable. If for some reason the applicant needs more time, they should notify the city, and they should submit a timeline extension waiver so we can extend that 120 days, so we have time to make that decision. If this, for some reason, the city is up against the wall, the city should make a decision with the current record. That's
So
what-
we have 80 days till November 26th, which is a Saturday.
So we need to be done before that. So if we say 60 days, that should be right around the first Wednesday of the month. Is that correct?
Now, does the applicant want to submit a timeline extension to the city? It essentially gives you time to do what we need to do. And it protects everybody at the same time.
And what did you say to me? At this point, I don't care what you need.
He's offering you an extension of the timeline, Jerry.
Just, do you want,
I just, at some point in time, it's either the city of Lowell wants to do something or they don't. So at the end, trying to get a grading plan, and I have tried and tried and tried. They said, I can't tell you when I'm going to be done. So the landscape and light pole issue, I can solve that. But a grading plan, I can't tell you exactly what that's going to be.
Just so we can finish this up, by giving a date, and that allows Jerry to go back and say, they've given me this many dates. And then it's,
And they'll go like this, on the deal.
I mean, at that point in time, it's where it's at, so
Right.
I just need that, let's go ahead and just. Get to
Okay,
a
let's
motion.
make a motion and move forward.
so, maybe I'd like to just add to your motion. So, this is for everybody's benefit, so when we have this situation where planning commission is requesting additional information, we should whittle the issues down. So planning commission, when they come back, they should really only be looking at these 4 things. We don't care about anything else. In planning commission's mind, all that stuff is met. and-
Everything else
and
has
found to
been
be met.
satisfied.
Everything else is satisfied, right? So when planning commission comes back, they should be focused on these 4 things.
Could you put out a recommended motion, Henry?
Okay, so. You want me to recite it?
Yes.
Okay, so my recommended motion to the planning commission chair would be, the planning commission. Is going to continue the hearing until November
November 2nd.
at which time they will come back to review. The additional items submitted by the applicant. The planning commission is requesting an exterior lighting plan, a landscaping plan, a grading plan, and an updated site plan showing off-street parking. All plans should be in conformance with the Lowell Development Code standards. Planning commission will convene on November 2nd to review the 4 plans and issue a determination.
If you guys are in favor of motion of as stated, would suffice for.
Okay. The recommendations.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second. I have a first and a second, any other discussion? All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will extend the date to November 2nd for those actions to be taken. Okay. This time we'll go ahead and move forward with land use file number 2022-07. Paul Fisher Park City Hall partition, which is the city property. The public hearing is now open at 8:04. As stated previously, we will have staff report, questions from planning commission, applicant presentation, public testimony, general public comments, applicant rebuttal. And does any commission member wish to disqualify him or herself for any personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight? Hearing none, does any of the commission members wish to report any significant ex parte or pre-hearing contacts? Hearing none, does any member of the audience wish to challenge the right of any commissioner to hear this matter? No. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to question the jurisdiction of this body to act on behalf of the city council in this matter? No. We're going to land use laws do require that all issues be raised, if the issues are to be appealed. Failure to raise the issues of this hearing may invalidate their further appeal. The staff is to present the report.
Okay, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so the city is requesting partition. The city owns the subject property. It is on public lands. The parcel currently is 1.71 acres in size and presently contains City Hall and Paul Fisher Park. The city is proposing to create parcel 2 out of a larger parcel. Parcel 2 does contain City Hall that will be demolished. Paul Fisher Park and the adjacent gravel parking lot will remain as is. The new parcel 2 will be advertised for sale in the future and redeveloped with residential uses. The efforts being conducted by the city are envisioned in the Lowell Downtown Master Plan. No immediate development will occur. Because the proposal is land division, urban street improvements may be required upon redevelopment. This is why staff is recommending condition of approval number 2. Condition 2 says that a plat note should be placed in the final plat that the purchaser shall sign a waiver of remonstrance for future street improvements. The waiver and the sale of the property should happen concurrent. Next slide. And the 2 conditions are condition 1 is that the property owner shall submit the final plat in accordance with ORS 92 and all state and county reporting requirements. And condition 2, prior to finalizing and recording the final partition plat, a plat note shall be placed on the final plat indicating that waiver of remonstrance for urban street improvements may be required on redevelopment of parcel 2. The waiver of remonstrance shall be signed and executed concurrently with the sale of parcel 2. So a little more on that. So that parcel is contained within the regulating plan of the downtown area. It currently does have good sidewalks. Curb and gutter may be needed in the future upon redevelopment. So that's why we're putting that note on there, just to make the purchaser aware, hey, if you do redevelop these, you might have to put in some curb and street improvements. So kind of a cautionary tale, and if they sign the waiver, it's probably not going to be needed anyway, because they're going to do the improvements in the redevelopment. It's kind of just the way. So staff recommend approval subject to the conditions of approval. And I just add the city administrator had handed this if he has anything to add about the process.
Nothing to add. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the commission? And Jeremy, as the applicant representative, do you wish to add anything?
No, thank you.
And does the commission have any questions of the applicant?
Is this going to go through zoning process, zoning change?
No, but it may upon redevelopment. Actually, take that back. When the development code gets implemented, the update, I think that parcel will be rezoned to downtown residential attached DRA. So
Okay.
it'll be rezoned for residential uses, which is what is envisioned in the downtown master plan.
No other further information. Now time for public testimony. Are there any members of the audience who wish to speak in favor of this proposal?
My name is Paul Regan. I'm speaking to you, third, I was right from Paul Fisher. My only, deal about all this stuff. All this is way over my head, but I don't think the city's thinking 15, 20 years down the road as far as giving up our footprint. You know, and I would consider, want you to consider it, that's all.
Any other questions of the applicant? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak against the proposal? I believe that was more in line. So do you have any other questions? And do you guys have any further comments? Jeremy?
No, thank you.
There's no further testimony. Public hearing is now closed at 8:09. Looking to the commission for any discussion or decision. You have none, decision. Would be appropriate on that memo, and it gives you two options.
I move that the planning commission approve the application for the partition based on the standards, findings, conclusion, and recommendations stated in the staff.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? And file 2022-07 has been approved. Next item of business, land use file number 2022-08, Rolling Rock Park partition / city property. Public hearing is now open at 8:11. And as follows, same staff report, questions from planning commission, applicant presentation, public testimony, general public comments, applicant rebuttal. Does any commission member wish to disqualify him or herself for any personal or financial interest in this matter before tonight? Hearing none, does any commission member wish to report any significant ex parte or pre-hearing contacts? Hearing none, does any member of the audience wish to challenge the right of any commissioner to hear this matter? No. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to question the jurisdiction of this body to act on behalf of the city council on this matter? No. Oregon land use laws require that all issues be raised. Issues are to be appealed. Failure to raise the issues in this hearing may invalidate their further appeal. Staff, please present the report.
Okay, you can advance to the next slide, please. Similar to the last partition, the city is also partitioning a section of Rolling Rock Park. The property is owned by the city. It is zoned public lands. It is 1.17 acres in size and currently contains Rolling Rock Park. The city is proposing to create two parcels, specifically parcel 2 out of the partition. This will effectively split Rolling Rock Park and allow for Cannon Street to be pushed through to North Shore. Cannon Street will be dedicated to this future right away on the final plat. The left-hand side of Rolling Rock Park is expected to be consolidated into one primary central park, while the portion on the right is expected to redevelop in the future. And both of these are consistent with the downtown master plan. In that slide, I think there's a picture of it. This is a picture from the Lowell Parks master plan showing that central park that the city is trying to create. This is how the redevelopment of Rolling Rock Park into a central park is envisioned. Notice that Cannon Street is improved and pushes through to North Shore. The proposed partition furthers the goals and visions as contained in the Lowell Parks master plan and the downtown master plan. There are three conditions of approval. The first one is the final plat. City shall submit in accordance with ORS 92 and all state and local and county reported environments. And condition 2, similar to the other partition, a plat note shall be placed on the final plat indicating that a waiver of remonstrance for future urban street improvements may be required on site development. And then the third condition is to just ensure that on the final plat that 60-foot right of way of Cannon Street is dedicated to the city for future right of way.
Any questions from the commission? Hearing none. Jeremy, do you have anything to add to the staff report?
Well, thank you.
Does the commission have any questions of the applicant? Now it's time for public testimony. Are there any members of the audience who wish to speak in favor of this proposal? No. Are there any members of the audience who wish to speak against the proposal? No.
Yes. I would like to.
You real quickly, once again, just for the record, state who you are.
Let's see. Yeah, parcel. How big is that, and how are we going to address off-street parking and stuff like that? If you are trying to have this retail space, it seems pretty small.
Off-street parking.
Yes.
So development in the downtown highly encourages on-street parking. So it's likely there won't be much of any off-street parking. Parking should be on street, and that's contained in the downtown master.
But if it is required to have 1.1 or 1.5 per, and to meet that, I don't believe we, City of Lowell has enough parking space as it is now when we, Lowell wrestling and stuff like that, people park in the fields and everything. And it fills up pretty dang quick. So our street parking right now, as per what I remember, right, maybe possibly plus or minus 15 cars down one side.
Mr. Chairman, and
Or the corner.
this appropriate.
Okay.
My response would be from the city's perspective of partitioning this off and selling it. That's not our concern. We want to sell it and let whoever decides to develop it.
I'll note on top of that, so the city is also updating their development code, and part of those updates, they're gonna exempt no off-street parking is required in the downtown area. So that doesn't mean you don't have to provide any, it just puts the onus on the developer to show that adequate parking is still provided. But like I said, the city does not want the downtown full of parking lots. That's why on-street parking is highly encouraged and likely gonna be what happens.
Is that before or after the parallel parking, bike lanes and everything else?
I think when development, typically improvements occur when development. Kind of converting parking.
Any other members of the audience who wish to speak against the proposal? Any other questions for the applicants? Okay, does the applicant have any further comments?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If there's no further testimony, public hearing is now closed at 8:17. We look into the commission for discussion or decision.
What is the length and width of this proposed parcel? It says 285, 258, 91. What's the width? You know?
Or, yeah, yes, Jeremy has, the city administrator has the survey.
Yeah.
So the city is the applicant in this case, and they did hire a surveyor to draw all these plats up. So we can take a look.
You try to get to the bottom here.
I'd say it's page 175.
Missed it. Just the length right here, it's 58.91 feet.
Mhm.
That
Is that it?
And we,
The width.
258.
no, that's the length.
Or the right, you're talking about the depth.
Yeah,
The depth.
That's 30 feet, so approximately 50 feet.
60 feet.
That's a
Yeah.
trailer park.
60 feet with a 10-foot setback from the curb, so there's 50 feet to do that. I'm not familiar with that. The weights on the downtown thing. You know, or setback?
I mean, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure the setbacks in downtown, well, once the code is implemented, right now, it's
I
not,
think you're all right.
I don't think there are, yeah.
Okay.
Because so generally, the downtown development, cities want development to occur right up to the property line to create that
Yes.
pedestrian interaction. So typically there are no setbacks.
Well, that's
Well, there's an alley, 20-foot alley as well.
The thing about it is, it does I mean, that's one parcel that does, it is well over what our
Mhm.
square footage is for minimum lot size.
Yes,
Sure.
20,000 is good size.
Any further discussion, commissioners? I'll be looking for motion.
I move that the planning commission approve this application for petition based on standards, findings, conclusions, and recommendations stated in staff.
Second. And first and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Motion passed. Mr. Jeremy, do we have any other business?
Nothing on the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing that, looking to adjourn at 8:21 p.m.
thank you for all your hard work. Very much appreciated.